Now, of course, this issue with Uruburu could be, oh, this is just one of those things. Or it could be that he's killing people off to make it look like the mummy's curse to hide this one murder. Which I think has been done in other stories as well. Right. Ebenezer Turnbull. Ironically, the Doctor isn't feeling well. So Holmes decides to pay a visit to the home of the late Ebenezer Turnbull by himself.
Dr. Turnbull, he was a strange one, he was. Hardly ever at home, always traipsing about a Lord knows where.
May I take a look at his things?
Oh, suit yourself. All he had is a big pile of books about Egyptian mummies and a few maps. He was a son of an earl, he was. Though you hardly tell from looking at him, poor fellow. Do you really think this mummy thing's what's done him in? Creepy, I says.
What kind of accent were you going for? Okay, we didn't seem to get much out of there. Let's check on Notebook. Turnbull was the Earl of Downey. Ah! That could be interesting, and now I remember where I've heard of this before. It was Pyramids of Giza, which I believe is a up to 80, which is, I think it's an Agatha Christie, and Last Wills and Testaments, Somerset House, and that's, come on, brain, and the murderer doing it has killed off a variety of people under the guise of a mummy's curse, so that he can inherit. So Somerset House, let's go. Quick carriage ride takes Holmes and Watson to Somerset House. Certainly they will have information on the wills of the dead men.
Mr. Turnbull apparently left what little he had to the Egyptology department at London University. And Windbank left everything to his wife Hildegard.
What about Weatherby?
Ditto. Everything was left to his wife Clarissa. Although being such a young chap, it hardly seems that he had much to leave at all.
Not particularly useful. There's no way of visiting the university, is there? There's Mr. Uruburu. London University. Which university? Several, I'm sure. But I don't think they'd have done anything about it. I don't think you send a university to get an earldom for a university. Travis still intrigues me. I wonder if we can meet these Arabs. Fahmy Akram, yes. Though I think that's only a side issue. That may only be a red herring is the problem. Travis, though, maybe some insight. Holmes decides to travel to Mr. Travis's home alone, leaving Watson in the company of Mrs. Hudson and her apple cranberry cakes.
So you've been reading my articles in the Times. I'm honored. What do you think of them?
Quite interesting. You've clearly been following the murders quite closely. Who do you suspect?
I believe it is the work of the ancient Egyptian god Pumatef and his goddess Neith.
Be serious.
I couldn't be more serious. You see, Mr. Holmes, although I am a journalist, I was actually trained as an Egyptologist. I know all about these mysteries. That's why my articles carry the force of truth.
And what is the truth, Mr. Travis?
The truth is that the Egyptians discovered the secret of life. What we call science is mere child's play compared to the knowledge they had. Look at this. Do you know what this is?
It appears to be a mummified animal of some sort. A monkey, perhaps?
Precisely.
Write a conversation piece.
I've been using it in some very important experiments which, if successful, will unlock the secret for bringing back the souls of the dead. I've been working on it, Mr. Holmes, using these tanner leaves. Watch. Uma Lotus. Licantina. Burura.
It appears that the soul of this particular monkey has no intention of making a reappearance.
It's only a matter of time, I know it is. After all, these secrets have been buried for thousands of years. These things don't happen overnight. But it will happen someday. This is my mission.
I believe I'll leave you to your work, Mr. Travis.
And don't go yet. But let me show you more.
Thank you. Some other time, perhaps.
So he has a mummified monkey and one of the strips of linen. Which one was it? On Weatherby. So the one on the ship. Now the linen used there had monkey hair on it. So that could be this one. He was trained as an Egyptologist. So it's quite possible that he didn't have some clash with Professor Turnbull. I'm taking too many notes in this, which is really frustrating because I'm not really talking to you guys, I fear, is the problem. We've already been to the library, it was no use. Meek Murray Library. Maybe O'Brien, thinking about it. Criminal, civil, or state papers. Maybe there's something in there about this. Lestrade could be useful, possibly. No, I think we go to the university. The university may give us some information, especially about Travis. The monkey hair seems to point to him, possibly, but it depends on who else had access to it. Watson states the obvious when he recommends a trip to the Egyptology department is in order. Holmes commends the good doctor and ushers him out the door into the fading sunlight.
Such a tragedy. Fine men all, and such outstanding scholars. I still can't quite get over the shock of it.
We understand.
Professor, we're looking for background information on these three men so that we can understand how their murders might tie together.
Well, let me begin with Dr. Turnbull. Ebenezer Turnbull was responsible for organizing the Carteret expedition. Quite a remarkable man, really. This was the first time he teamed up with James Windibank. Professor Windibank was one of our most popular lecturers. In fact, several of his former students were also eager to accompany him. I recall him saying that he was having difficulty choosing. Weatherby turned out to be the lucky one. Though it seems far from it now, doesn't it? I suppose Smith and Travis turned out to be the lucky ones after all.
Smith and Travis?
Travis.
Peter Smith accepted the invitation to join another expedition. As for Philip Travis, he was quite keen on accompanying Professor Windibank. In fact, he became exceedingly upset when Andrew Weatherby, a postgraduate student in the department, was chosen instead. Took it rather personally, I should say.
You do say. Right, Travis has motive. He has the weapon. The monkey hair. We don't have any thought of the dog hair yet. So we know Travis did it. Well, I'm fairly confident Travis did it. I say I know. He would have access to this, to the one with the mummy with the mummy wrappings with the monkey hair. He wasn't taken, which means he would have reason to be angry at Turnbull, who organised the expedition, Windibank, who refused to take him, and Weatherby, who took the slot instead. Now, actually, I didn't note the other name. Doesn't say who was left. The other person who was left behind. That's rather sad. But he went on another expedition. So we're going to try and go to the judge. We'll do really badly. Armed with information about the mummy murders, the detectives cut a swath through the London fog and head to the Queen's Court.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, but it seems you will have to turn up a clue or two more before I'll judge this case.
What? You're not going to give me like a little note saying, here's the evidence, and like, here are questions? Because that's what I thought it would be. Because I'm fairly sure it was Travis. Oh. We didn't see any kind of idea of its strength, though, is the problem. Holmes talked to Philip Travis and discovered that journalist believes Egyptian gods killed the Englishman. Much to Holmes' chagrin, the man attempts to raise the spirit of a monkey. That's the thing, is he's got I think that this is the problem. I think this is maybe what he's talking about with the whole theorizing thing. Is he has the perfect motive. Right, I think we're going to have to go and talk to... I think it's also he has the perfect motive to kill all three. Whereas I can't really see many other people having such... maybe we should go and visit the shipping companies. The Jardine Maintenance Co. They may have some extra information. Right, who have I not investigated? Who have I not visited? No, I've been to Somerset. Hogg. No. Lestrade. Right, I think we'll visit Lestrade. Maybe he has something for us. Right, although talking with Lestrade is often tedious and the inspector is condescending, Holmes and Watson visit Scotland Yard, hoping the man has done his due diligence in this case and can offer insight.
Well, well, if it isn't Mr. Sherlock Holmes, London's most overly praised amateur sleuth, needing the help of the Yard again.
Are you going to stand for that, Holmes?
Let's just see who proceeds to solve this case, Watson. Inspector Lestrade, my good man, I'm looking into the cause of James Windibank's death.
I should have known. That murder has brought out every crank in the city. I think the professional police can wrap this one up.
All the same, could you tell us what you've discovered to date?
One dead archaeologist, no suspect, no motive.
And what of Andrew Weatherby's death? Have you looked into that?
I have talked to Captain Ramsey, but we have no leads. Look, I'm not even sure that Weatherby's murder falls into our jurisdiction. And if it doesn't, you're not going to find me worrying about it. As it is, I have enough murders to take care of.
I hate you, Lestrade. I hate you with a fiery, fiery passion with your Dick Van Dyke accent and Right, I think we've pretty much exhausted everyone who I think could be any real use there, so now we have to start looking at... Maybe we've missed something else out. Okay, let's go to Amateur Mendicant Society. Al-Sud Abdullah. Is that Charles Baskerville? Maybe... Ooh, British Museum. Oh. I wonder if they've got any mummified dogs at the British Museum that have gone missing. That's got to be a ridiculously silly red herring, hasn't it? Just thinking about... Just looking. Oh, I didn't write down the mummy's name. That's frustrating. Because it was Catabet, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Kate Bet. Okay, we'll visit the museum, I think. Maybe something has happened there. Holmes logically concludes that the clues in this case point to visiting the museum. Watson heartily agrees and follows the detective out of the door.
Windibank's body was found in the mummy's case.
Inside it?
Precisely. One of the guards, Henry Witherspoon, discovered it when making his rounds. He noticed that the lid was askew and a hand was sticking out of it. By the look on his face when he came to summons me, he must have thought that the mummy was attempting to leave its resting place. Some of the guards have been a bit on edge, you know, since the stories about Dr. Turnbull's death.
What happened when you arrived at the scene?
Witherspoon assisted me in removing the lid, and there was the body of James Windibank. Around his neck was a bandage of linen.
And the mummy was missing?
No, it was in there too. Underneath poor Windibank, completely undisturbed, not a length of its sheeting unraveled.
Who had access to the exhibit room?
Well, the room was officially closed yesterday while we set up the exhibit, but the museum was open and we took no extraordinary precautions to keep people out.
Can you think of anyone who might have wanted to kill Windibank?
None at all. I actually didn't know him very well. He did work for the museum, you see. He was with the London University. The university and the museum were joint sponsors of the Ketterbeck expedition.
Mr. Johnson,
Catabet.
can you think of anything whatsoever that might shed some light on this affair?
No, I'm very sorry. I can't think of a thing. I only hope that all this publicity doesn't keep people away from the exhibit.
Right, Witherspoon was the guard. That doesn't give us anything really useful. Do you exist, Mr. Witherspoon? No, you don't. Ah, well. Zoological gardens. A variety of different places. Not really useful for us, unfortunately. A Rubaru, but... I don't know if it's I've got to go to all these places and then the judge will say, "Oh, you've finally got it." Yeah, it is. It is Catabet, which is Kate. So I think we should investigate these two other men, Al-Sud and Fahmy. Let's go. Holmes knows nothing of Al-Sud and is eager to accompany Watson to his home. Perhaps the gentleman could be of service to them.
Well, Holmes, I checked in with Mr. Al-Sad's manservant and...
And you discovered that Mr. Al-Sad was not at home.
But however did you know that?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I noticed some crumpet crumbs from the corner bakery stuck to your lapel. You haven't been gone long enough to stop for tea and interview anyone at length.
Most observant, sir.
That was a waste of time. Thank you, game. And Fahmy. Fahmy. A mist seems to rise from the Thames as the men cross a bridge on their way to meet with Akram Fahmy, a handler of historical relics.
Hello? Is anyone there? Mr. Fahmy, are you at home?
Apparently so, Watson. Look.
Oh, what ghastly business. Everyone will assume the mummy has struck again.
Hardly a plausible assumption. This poor fellow has a knife in his back and not a scrap of sheeting about his neck.
How very observant, Holmes.
Ring up Scotland Yard. This case is simple enough for them to solve.
You've solved it already.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Obviously, it was the butler.
Butler? What butler?
Exactly my point. A man as wealthy as Akram Fahmy would always have a manservant about him. After the foul deed, this one obviously beat a hasty retreat.
Or he could be worried that we're going to accuse him. Right, he's dead. Maybe I have to go to Scotland Yard now. Oh, are these clues all going to change based on what I've discovered? Ugh. Quite possibly. That's frustrating. Huh. Pettigrew. His name has appeared more than once in this case. But I'm worried that he's just going to say that this has got not these aren't the mummies. That the mummy isn't doing the murder. Not useful at all. Newspapers. Police Gazette, London Times. Anything else? Inspector Lestrade, London Bridge Station. Yeah, Robert Jurgens. Maybe worth actually just going to Mrs. Hudson, Mycroft Holmes. English Archaeological Society. Holmes agrees that a trip to the English Archaeological Society might wrap up a line of their investigation.
This seemed to be a dead end. No one had any information that could help us solve this case.
Right. Doesn't seem to be anything particularly useful. Benjamin Disraeli. Sure that would go down well. Should I revisit Inspector Lestrade? Maybe he finds something out. Like, well, but he's just like, oh, it was the butler. Let's try going again. Oh, yeah, same dialogue.
Well, if it isn't Mr. Sherlock Holmes, London's most overly...
Okay.
amateur sleuth.
I can't actually slide it.
Are you going to stand for that, Holmes?
Let's just see who proceeds
It's the same thing, isn't it? I assume.
to solve this case, Watson. Inspector Lestrade, my good man, I'm looking into the cause of James Windermere.
Yeah. It's the same thing, so we'll skip that over. No point in that whatsoever.